Today I'm going to look at tax-free money market funds and ETFs, and I'm going to compare them, all of the best ones that I found, and crown a winner. If you haven't subscribed yet, please press that subscribe button. It really helps. And also feel free to comment and like. This first category is tax-free money market funds. These are all funds that have a $1 net asset value, basically mutual funds, but money market accounts. So the first one is the JP Morgan tax-free money market fund. This one, like most of these in here, invests in municipal obligations, which interest is excluded from federal income taxes. Now, you'll have to look at whatever state you're in. They're usually tax-free, but you may want to look at your state and find out. So when I say tax-free, it's generally going to be for federal. For state, you're going to have to look at the state that you're in. For this category, I'm going from lowest yield to the highest yield. So this is the lowest yield so far. It has a 7-day SEC yield of 2.74%. It has $10 billion in assets under management. The weighted average maturity for this one is only 12 days, so very short term, like most money market accounts. Now this fund has $10.45 billion in assets. The minimum investment for this one is $1,000. Subsequent investments are $50. The year-to-date return on this one is 0.78%, and the net expense ratio on this one is quite high at 0.59%. Here's what their holdings are. They're holding a Nuveen AMT-free municipal income fund. I believe this is a closed-end fund. They have that, and then they have, when you get to the second page, you see they have City of Atlanta, Michigan, California. Okay, this one started in 1987, so it's quite old. All right, let's look at the next one. The next one is the Schwab Municipal Money Market Fund Investor Shares. It has a 0.340% expense ratio, which is about half of what JP Morgan was. This fund's goal is to seek the highest current income that is consistent with stability of capital and liquidity, and that is exempt from federal income tax. This one started in 1995, has $3 billion in assets under management. There's no minimum investment for the Schwab one. The average maturity is 9.4 days, so quite short. This one has a higher yield, a 2.9% 7-day yield. Now the year to date on this one is a little bit higher at 0.89%. Okay, this one, just like JP Morgan, is municipal. So you have Alaska Housing Finance, Alabama Housing, Huntsville Health, Mobile, Alabama, a bunch of different things. Cities, California Health Facilities. I believe this one has 925 holdings. Now this one is subject to the AMT tax. So if you're a little bit of a higher income and you have to pay AMT tax, if we look at it here, this fund, 32%, in 2022, 32% of the assets were subject to the AMT tax. Okay, so the next one is the Fidelity Municipal Money Market Fund. Now this one, I'm not sure. I believe it's not closed to new investors, but if you look at this message here, it says, effective after the close of business on 2015, new positions in the fund are limited to accounts beneficially owned by natural persons as determined by the fund. So, I mean, I really don't know what that means. I contacted Fidelity on another one of these, and they said it means you have to have over $1 million invested, but that was a different fund that had a $1 million minimum. This one has a no minimum investment amount. This one has no minimum investment amount, as you can see right here, 0. And it started in 1980. It has a 0.41% expense ratio, $3.9 billion in assets under management. This one has an even higher 3.14% yield, 7-day yield. The weighted average life on this one is a little bit longer at 26 days. They also show a tax equivalent yield. This I think assumes that you're in a higher tax bracket and you're paying taxes on all this at a higher rate. And so this is showing that the equivalent would be 5.22%. The year-to-date return on this one is a little higher at 0.96%. This one has more than just municipal bonds. It has 2.56% municipal, but it also has commercial paper, variable rate demand notes, and other In the details here, you can see that it says subject to alternative minimum tax. Now, this doesn't apply to you if your income is, I believe it's less than 81,000 and you're filing single. If it's less than that, then this doesn't apply to you. But if you're subject to alternative minimum tax, then 51.75% of this income is subject to the AMT tax. So quite high compared to the other one so far. The last one in this group is the Vanguard Municipal Money Market Fund, VMSXX. It has a 3.20% 7-day yield, so the highest of this group. Now, it actually went down a little bit from yesterday. A lot of them went down slightly. It was actually, I think, 3.26 yesterday when I did this, and I had to change it. This one has a low 0.15% expense ratio and a $3,000 investment minimum. Now, the compounded yield, this would be similar to the APY, is 3.25%. Vanguard Municipal Money Market Fund's investment objective is to seek to provide current income that is exempt from federal personal income taxes while maintaining liquidity and a stable price of $1. The year-to-date return on this one is quite high at 0.93%. It's the higher of the group. This one has 810 holdings. The average maturity is 8 days, and it has $16 billion in assets under management. Now, this one is subject to the AMT tax also, but only 15.4% of the portfolio. Definitely much lower than the last one, which was 50%. 100% tax-exempt securities. Okay, here are some of the holdings for Vanguard: Akron, Ohio, Hospital District, Alabama Care, Alaskan Housing Finance, New York Municipal Water and Sewer System. So a bunch of different city. What I like better about the Vanguard compared to the last one is there's not commercial paper. This is mostly city stuff. Very unlikely to go bankrupt as compared to company stuff that, they go bankrupt much more frequently. And also you can tell from the, it's more tax efficient because it's municipals, more municipals than the last one. And it's a higher yield. So you get the best of everything. The higher yield, I think, is a result of the lower expense ratio also. So the winner for the best tax-free money market fund is the Vanguard Municipal Money Market Fund, VMSXX. It has the highest yield, the lowest expense. It doesn't have the lowest minimum, but I think altogether it's the best out of the group. And it only had the 0.15% alternative minimum tax, which was the lowest out of all of the ones that actually posted it. There was one that the JP Morgan one, I couldn't find any info on that one. So, but there's more. I have another category that I'm going to show you. I have a second group that I created for the best tax-free, not just tax-free, but AMT, alternative minimum tax-free money fund. And I have two of them here, one from Schwab and one from Fidelity. So the Schwab one is the Schwab AMT tax-free money fund investor shares. So this one is going to be good for someone who has a higher income that's subject to the AMT tax. These two may be ones that you want to look at. This one has a low net expense ratio of 0.340%. It seeks the highest current income exempt from federal tax that is consistent with stability of capital and liquidity. Seeks to generate current income exempt from federal income tax, including AMT, while maintaining liquidity. Invest in municipal money market securities issued by states, local governments, and other municipal agencies. This one started in 2006. It has $900 million of assets under management. It has a 7-day yield of 2.83%, so still pretty high. This is actually higher than the first one, the JP Morgan one that we looked at earlier. The weighted average maturity on this one, 8.7 days. Year-to-date performance on this one is 0.86%. Not the best, but you're getting tax-free also. The holdings on this one looks kind of similar to the other one. You've got Arizona Hospital, Arizona Facilities, California Go Bonds, University of California Medical Center. Okay, now let's look at the 2022 percentage of income subject to AMT. Okay, so the other Schwab fund was 32%, the first one here. This one is the municipal. This is the one right here, Schwab AMT tax-free. The second from the bottom one, money fund, 0% 0. So this one is 0. And there's also a Schwab municipal bond ETF, which is 0. Okay, so let's look at the next one, the Fidelity one, and see how it compares. The Fidelity one is called the Fidelity Tax-exempt Money Market Fund. Also, it has a strange message. Effective after the close of business day in 2015, new positions of the fund are limited to accounts beneficially owned by natural persons as determined by the fund. So I really don't know what that means. If anybody knows, feel free to comment in the comments. This one has a year-to-date return of 0.93%, so pretty high, higher than some of the other ones. The 7-day yield is 3.10% on this one, so that's almost as high as the Vanguard one for the one that had the 0.15% AMT tax. The Vanguard one was 3.2%, but it has the AMT tax. Now this one doesn't. Minimum investment, 0. The net expense ratio is 0.32% on this one. It's even lower than the Schwab one. Assets under management, 2.7 billion. It's also larger than Schwab. This one looks almost identical to the other one. It has variable rate demand notes also. And I do see some commercial paper, not a whole lot of municipal bonds. Normally investing in municipal money market securities at 80% of assets in municipal securities, whose interest is exempt from federal income tax. Normally not investing in municipal securities whose interest is subject to the federal minimum tax. The weighted average maturity on this one, 22 days. This one started in 2001. Okay, now here we can see right here where it says subject to alternative minimum tax. 0 for this one. The other one was 51% for this, for the other Fidelity fund. So I'm going to crown the winner for the best AMT tax-exempt money market fund to the Fidelity tax-exempt money market fund. It has the highest yield and the lowest expense ratio and the best performance overall. So this is definitely going to be the best for the mutual fund category. But I do have the ETF category, and you may want to compare that also. Okay, so the last category is what is the best tax-free money market ETF? So I've condensed it down. The list was actually probably 4 long, and then some of them are just, they're way too long term. There are some Vanguard ones, Schwab had one, I think it was 4 to 6 year duration as the average term length of their holdings, which is too long with this rising interest rate environment because the price could keep going down if the rates keep going up. So why take a chance? So these two here are the only ones that I found that are really short term. So it's JP Morgan, JMST, Ultra Short Municipal Income ETF. This one has a 30-day SEC yield of 3.01%, has one of the highest year-to-date returns, 1.20% return. Okay, this one started in 2018. One of the only funds in the industry focused on ultra short end of the municipal bond market. There you go. Competitively priced at 0.18%. That's pretty low. I mean, you saw what Fidelity and Schwab charges is lower than that. Now, unlike the mutual fund, the net asset value on an ETF like this it's going to fluctuate. It's not going to stay at 1. It's going to fluctuate, unlike the mutual funds, unlike the money market mutual funds. This one has $2.4 billion of assets under management, 2,400 holdings. Here we go. Duration, 0.66 years. Average maturity, 1 year. Average life, 0.75. Top 10 holdings. Okay, you have Alabama, Federal Aid, New York, Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, University of Colorado. Okay, let's look at the next one. The next one I did have several from iShares, but I narrowed it down. This is one of the best ones I found from iShares. That's the tax-free municipal bond ETF. That's the shorter term one. This has a slightly higher expense ratio of 0.25%. It also has a high year-to-date return of 1.18%. Seeks to maximize tax-free current income. This one started in 2015. The benchmark is the 1 to 2 years index, Bloomberg Municipal Bond Index. It has 460 million in assets under management, so it's a little bit smaller than the JP Morgan one. It has fewer holdings too, 89 holdings. The 30-day SEC yield on this is much higher. It's a little bit higher at 3.24%, which is pretty high considering that it's tax-free. Weighted average maturity 0.66, not very long term. Effective duration 0.34 years. That's real low. Here you can see their holdings: Kentucky, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, New Jersey, and there's an exposure breakdown showing the various states that they have debt that they hold. Okay, let's look at the performance. Okay, we have the JP Morgan JMST. It's the one with the more assets under management and the slightly lower fee. Also, it's got more holdings. So the JP Morgan one is in orange. Right here, you can see it in orange. Now we're looking at the 1 year. The blue one is MEAR, is the iShares one. So looking just at this one, which is just the price performance, no dividends or yield. This is just how much the stock price goes up or down. For the 1 year, definitely JP Morgan won. Now if we go back to 3 years, it looks like the iShares won slightly on that one. Now let's factor into consideration the dividends or interest, whatever you call it. Total return. Okay, this is the 3-year total return. JP Morgan 2.49, MEAR 2.48. Now let's look at the 1 year. So I would say that's about a little bit of a toss up there. Let's look at the 1 year now and see. I think the 1 year is probably more important. Now if we look at the 1 year, you can see that the JP Morgan did 2.27% total return versus the MEAR, which did 2.15%. So I say that the winner with the slightly lower expense ratio and the more assets under management, the better performance is the JP Morgan. So I'm going to crown the JP Morgan one the winner for the best tax-free money market ETF. Vanguard has a very low 0.15% expense ratio and has one of the highest 7-day yields, 3.2%, and a $3,000 investment minimum. Fidelity has a high 3.10% 7-day yield, no AMT tax, and no investment minimum. JP Morgan has a very low 0.18% expense ratio. It has a high 3.01% 30-day SEC yield, and it has some of the best price performance when compared to the other ETFs.